Welcome everybody to my talk show. I'm your host, Darwin Rebel, here again with another interview on my show, Late Night with Rebel, and we're going to be conducting an interview and a special interview with a longtime friend of mine. Their name is Ray is Deaf. They're a part of the deaf community in VRChat and the ASL community. They're also a teacher, and this is going to be a special interview because we also have a translator and interpreter with us named Jenny. Just saying that so everyone's not confused by when another person steps out. But just for everybody just to know, we also have closed captions enabled for this interview. So hopefully those work good. And also on YouTube, when this interview is uploaded to YouTube,
you couldn't stay away, huh?
It will have closed captions as well. Yo, Selfish King, thanks so much for 2 months.
Just resubscribed for 2 months. Thanks to @JibJib
Anyway,
Flutterhouse for my sub gift.
Without further ado, let's introduce our guest coming from behind the curtains. Ray is Deaf. Yeah, Ray sits in the chair next to me. Excuse me.
Oops, sorry about that.
No worries. So the first thing I will say is, how are you doing today, Ray?
Oh, how am I doing? I'm good. I'm great. Thank you.
Okay, let's start with the first question. My first question for Ray is, how'd you get into VRChat?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Okay. So, it was a really long time ago. I want to say my first experience to it, my first exposure with VRChat. I want to say, I feel like it was around... Hold on, I gotta think about that. I found a YouTube video. Oh, sorry about that. I found a YouTube video, and this video had popped up in my feed, and I was really interested in it, because I've never seen anything like this. So I went ahead and checked it out, and there's a few different videos that were discussing different VRChat topics, and some of them were actually about sign language in VRChat, and I noticed that it wasn't, exact sign language. It wasn't quite where sign language is normally. It wasn't as complex. So I was very interested in that, and so I decided I wanted to try it out. I joined VRChat myself for the first time, but it was very, very awkward for me just because I didn't have a VR headset at the time, so I was only on desktop. I couldn't even move my arms, So I had a really hard time accepting that, but once I got used to it, I was able to find this old room, you probably remember it, called Presentation Room, and they had pens all over, so I could just communicate with people through writing. And then I was able to find even more worlds with keyboards that I could use to type. But still at the time I didn't have VR for a while. And, it was definitely an experience.
Okay. My next question is, how did you start streaming?
Oh, I see. How did I start? Probably 2 years ago is when I started streaming. I had made that decision that I wanted to try it out and, have that little camera with me that I could just take with me everywhere, and people could see me communicate with my friends and having a good time, just hanging out and having fun. And especially for people who didn't know me or didn't know my deaf community, they could see my stream and know me and know my name and be introduced to me, who is a deaf person and who is playing a game. And I could explain to them my culture and explain that we have tons of people here who are deaf and hard hearing or whatever, and that they could see our sign language in VRChat, and I could be kind of the exposure for people. That's been happening for about 2 years. I try my best to keep it up, but stuff happens. Like if you crash the game, or sometimes people come in and they crash you like maliciously, it is pretty difficult with that streaming environment. And I'm aware that it is dangerous, that there's a lot of crashers who will target streamers, and I've definitely experienced that. So I try my best to stay safe when I'm streaming, but yeah, it's definitely fun.
A follow-up question to that would be, how has streaming changed for you since the beginning of streaming till now?
Oh, I see. I feel like my experience in VRChat as a whole, really, it's just, it's changed completely as I've improved, signing in VR and being more used to streaming using VR, and just being able to spread my deaf community, and being able to see people, be exposed to my deaf community who's never even met a deaf person before, and be interested and fall in love with the language and want to come join us, and seeing our community just explode with members. I've been able to meet so many amazing people, and meet people who I've been able to plan with and make innovations, and plan for the future for new developments in VR technology. I've been very fortunate to be able to have conversations with people like this, and make dreams for the future. Obviously right now we have Discord and VRChat, and it's just crazy to see how fast technology itself can change and evolve. And I'm totally sure that one day in the future that we're going to see so many new opportunities open up, and be able to experience that and see even more people come and want to join our community and learn about our culture. Deaf and hard of hearing people, all of us in our community, we just enjoy being able to spread that love and having so many people come meet us. Yeah.
That's impressive. That's really great. My next question is, tell us your experience growing up being deaf.
So yeah, of course, growing up deaf, it's a very different experience, because I was born deaf. Oh, hold on. Okay. I was born deaf, so I grew up deaf, and my entire family is hearing. I am the only deaf person. And it was a little lonely at times, just being sort of isolated as a deaf person, especially when people would talk to me with their words, and it would just go right over my head. I wouldn't be able to communicate with them, especially as a young child, when you're craving that communication. And I wanted people just to write with me or just try and understand me, but I was still learning English as a child. It's a very difficult thing, so it was very difficult at times where I felt very isolated, but I was able to overcome that because my mother was able to find a place which was a deaf school. So a school just for deaf children, where deaf children could learn and take classes and learn sign language and also English. We could learn how to fingerspell and how to communicate, and it was the best decision that my mother could make for me, because once I was able to go to my deaf school, it was just a lot better for me. And even with my family environment changed, because I was able to show them videos of how to use signs, or I was able to teach them myself how to fingerspell their name, just very simple stuff like that. Of course, it takes some time getting used to, especially in VR. It's even harder because you're using a controller. But, so back then I'd be able to help my family and just feel their hands and move their hands and teach them how to sign. It was very hard for me, for example, learning my last name. I have a pretty long last name, so that was pretty difficult. I can remember being a child trying again and again. to sign my last name. And once I finally got it, I just felt so accomplished, and it just made me feel so happy and free, being able to express myself. Because I was able to realize that I'd spent a portion of my life not being able to communicate, being sent to doctors and being told, I was deaf and trying to figure that out. Before I was sent to a deaf school, it was just a very different environment. And this was a big school. Like, this had a lot of children in it, and it was just beautiful, and it was an amazing environment for me to grow up in. And it's scary because you just got all these kids running around and they're all deaf and can sign very well and write very well. And I was very fortunate to have amazing teachers who were deaf, and it was just incredible to see how quickly I was able to pick up that language, from just the basics of sign, ABCs, signing very slow, learning just the beginnings, and writing and reading. It takes so much time, it takes so much effort, but I was able to learn so much from that school, even like computer science, history, math, everything. And that really made me who I am today. Now I'm a grown person, and I'm so educated and knowledgeable, and I really owe a lot of that to my deaf school and my deaf friends, my deaf community around me, who have surrounded me with educational opportunities and given me so much love and celebration and just happiness and joy. It's just so fun. It's just amazing. I'm just so grateful for my mother, who gave that opportunity to me, and also my teachers, who taught me everything that I know and taught me how to be introduced to my own personal culture. And of course, now I'm graduated, and I'm out of school. I went to multiple deaf schools throughout my life, but now that aspect of my life is over, I'm able just to reflect on how much a deaf school impacted me, and allowed me to grow. So it was just crazy how much I learned, like computer science definitely was crazy. Business as well was really fun. My school was really great and did not limit our education at all. I know some schools do limit education because it's an American school system. So of course it's not perfect. But my school in particular just had so many classes available. And they still do to this day. They even have sports and everything. So I was just very fortunate to grow up in this really amazing school and experience all these amazing things with all these amazing people, and it's just amazing. It's beautiful and it's cool, and I'm just so happy I was able to experience that. And graduation is kind of a bittersweet thing. Once you graduate, you move on with your life. I live in New Jersey now, so I'm pretty far from where my school was, but I miss my friends back then. We've grown apart. It happens. But I haven't really been able to see them since they're just so far. But I still can connect with them. We can use VRChat. A lot of deaf people use VRChat to communicate. So yeah, it's a hard time not being able to see your old childhood friend. But now I'm here in VRChat, and I just have a whole new experience with meeting people in VR and being able to introduce myself as a deaf person, and meeting all these people, just like Jenny, meeting her and communicating with her and making new friends all the time. It's beautiful. I love it. It's an amazing experience. I love my life.
My next question.
Thanks for coming over
sorry,
to
one
me.
second.
Do you like what you see? Ooh woo.
We have a raid coming in from HPPPE Def. I'm assuming that's going to be one of your friends or from the Helping Hands community. But thank you so much for the raid. Anyway, for anyone who's tuning in, I'm doing an interview with Ray here, and Jenny's translating. It's just so everyone's on the same page. Anyway, the next question for Ray is, tell me about your avatar. How did you come up with the idea of the avatar that represents you?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I guess the first thing, about that. So I guess this avatar, it's kind of a mix of a lot of different things that I've tested out and wanted to see, especially with hand limitations, it's really important. Back before I had index, you have to make sure you have certain hand gestures that allow you to communicate easily, because there's some avatars that the hands are just not great for signing, and it's pretty difficult if you have certain avatars. So I didn't make this avatar. I want to preference that. This is not something that I made myself. And, you know, before I had this avatar, I also used some public avatars. But yeah, you know, it was no problem for me for a while just using publics, as long as the hands were fine. But I had a friend of mine who decided that they wanted to make my avatar for me, and they set it all up for me. They made sure I felt comfortable. They were like kind of asking me through the process of what I wanted, and they made sure that the hands worked really well. You could see them well. You can see they have outlines on them. So the outlines really highlight my hands and allow my fingers to be really well defined. And because if without outlines, sometimes it could be a little bit difficult to read sign language in VRChat, just because of how the graphics are processed. But you know, the person who made my avatar, we were writing back and forth throughout the entire process, and they just really helped optimize it for exactly what I need, and it's just perfect. I'm very thankful. And the person who made it for me, he's a deaf person, so yeah, it's really cool.
That's awesome. I actually really like it, and you have a lot of different outfits I saw on your Twitter. Does each outfit, is that something that you personally pick out, or is it more so your friends sort of give you avatars that as like a gift?
Oh yeah. I have a lot of friends actually who make avatars and help me. Every so often we'll be like sending pictures back and forth, and I'll be like, that's okay, that's not bad. We'll kind of work together on that. Oh, sorry. But a lot of times I just get gifts from my friends. I'm very fortunate for that. They'll just kind of write me on Discord and be like, hey, you know, this avatar, check it out. Would you like this? I have a lot of friends, hard of hearing, deaf, mute. They're all avatar creators, and VRChat isn't perfect, and obviously every avatar is going to just have a little bit something wrong with it, or just not exactly how you want it to be, or it's not going to work just right, because it takes a long time to make avatars, and you just have to focus so hard. And especially it's even more complicated when you're making a avatar that has to sign very clearly and very well. You want to make sure the hands are well defined. So yeah, I know that they work very hard for me. I really appreciate it.
Before we continue, Dead Guy, can you help me out here and get rid of these cups? Because I can't move them myself because I turned it off. Just so translation doesn't get interrupted. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anyway, so I was browsing on your Twitter and I saw that one of the outfits you had was a cowgirl outfit. Was that something that was your idea, or was it your friend's?
Well, you're embarrassing me. I'm a little bit surprised that you saw that. Yeah, this person, they gave it to me, and maybe it was my idea, maybe it was theirs. I don't know. There's some drawings that I liked that were similar to that, and I don't know. Cowgirls are cute. What can I say? I love that avatar a lot, and I think she did a really good job making it. And a lot of people tell me, like, are you my mom? You got mommy milkies? If they see me in that, it makes me laugh. So, you know what can I say?
Well, I can tell you, Ray, that I do a lot of research every time I interview someone, so I do have to go for their Twitter and Twitch and stuff like that. And I think the cowgirl outfit does suit you well, and you look pretty cute, just saying.
Oh, shucks. Thank you. It just makes me a little bit nervous, but thank you. I hope everyone, including my friends, hard of hearing, mute, whatever, I know that they love it. So it's fun to be able to share that with people and get a compliment. So thank you.
My next question for Ray is, how did the ASL community start in VRChat, and how were you involved in that process?
Oh, how did it get established? How did it start? Okay. Well, first things first, when we began our community, I mean, like bare bones community, in VRChat, it was very long ago. I want to say, so this person who originally established it, his name is Papa T. And then we also had some other people who there at the beginning named Cha, and me and myself. And, we had kind of decided after hanging out for a while, we should make a Discord, a community that we can hang out in. And that was in 2018, a very long time ago. So we had planned to make this little community and just gather our friends together, call in video chats and sign together, or hang out in VR together, just hang out online. But that's really just how it started, is just a few friends who wanted to set something up. But then around maybe 2019, close to 2020, it just exploded. And we had just so many people coming in. It just grew so fast. And, we couldn't ever expect something like that, but we're extremely grateful. And I'm extremely grateful for Papa T as well. I just love him so much and cherish him, because he's just been supporting us so much from the beginning. And, now we have teachers and people who are experienced and fluent in the language, and also people who have never experienced sign language. And perhaps that sometimes people meet a deaf person for the first time in their life in VR, somebody who's never had an experience with a deaf person before. And, of course that makes some rude people, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that we've never had a bad experience. It happens, our deaf community, misunderstandings happen, arguments happen. It's okay, but we know who's true, we know who's real, who matters, the real sign language and the real culture. So even though we have those experiences, it's still a really large part of our life. It's not just in VR. Sign language isn't something that just exists here. It has a history. Like, sign language in America stemmed from sign language in France, and it has no connection to spoken English, and it's just molded and changed. And there's just so many complexities of the language and our culture, and it's just amazing to see it grow. And, that history of our language coming from France, I have a huge respect for French Sign Language. Me being American, I can decide, I learn ASL, of course, but I could decide to take up whatever language I want and build my own deaf community, my own deaf school, my own deaf culture. I have the power to grow a community and see it evolve, and it's just amazing to live in my deaf world, and the hearing world is separate from me. But a lot of people will see our deaf world and think that it's different, or that we struggle because we cannot hear people, they have to tap our shoulder, stuff like that. Just everyday thing as a deaf person. For example, music. Of course, deaf people experience music differently. We experience it through vibrations, as a hearing person would experience it through sound. Just every little aspect of deaf culture, how we use video chats to communicate, how we work, how we run businesses, how we go to college. It's just incredible to see how large our community is. And then, hearing people also have their own culture in their hearing world. And of course, they could hear music, they could drive and hear emergency vehicles, they go to hearing school, everything, and even though we're different, we're equal. Our two worlds are different, but they're still equal to each other, and we're able to communicate with each other and exchange knowledge and exchange culture and grow together and work together. And it's, we don't have to be hateful or cancel each other. It's just, I feel it's really important that we work together and find relationships between the two communities, and even other countries too. We want to make sure we're all united, all our different cultures coming together, different languages, different beliefs. All these people are different, but it's so important to respect them. And I think that it's important to keep that ideology in your heart and cherish everyone around you. Yeah.
That's incredible. My next question is, well, I guess I've already technically, you went into depth about it, but basically the question I was going to ask was, over time since you started VRChat, how's the deaf community changed? Obviously you talked about earlier where the deaf community was in its infancy, in early 2018 and then 2019, and I guess the reformat this question, because you already answered some of it, I guess a way would be, how do you feel about the deaf community in present day now? Like, do you feel that there's a lot of still growth, or do you like to come, or is there a lot, are you satisfied with what you have now with the deaf community in VRChat?
That's a great question. So, it's really important to realize that deaf communities are always growing. And I feel that experience is never going to change, and we're always going to be teaching people and having new people come in and learn and want to experience our communities and cultures. And, as it changes, it's going to be different. And that is a little bit scary, especially if you don't know what's going to happen in the future. The changes that are going to happen, maybe people who work in industries have new ideas, new technology that could help speed up the growth of our community. You never really know. People make ideas all the time and
excuse me,
discuss together, come together and talk about how they can better our community to the very most, which will eventually leave us satisfied, like you said. But that's just going to be years to come.
Okay. My next question is, do you have any advice for anyone that wants to get into VRChat and be a part of the ASL community and or deaf community?
So, all these new people who don't know anything about sign language or culture and they want to learn and study, I think that it's a really great thing to try out, especially if you've never experienced something like this. We're always so patient, and we're always going to go very slow for you. And we're always going to try our best to explain. And even if you don't understand, it's okay. Like, we can get an interpreter here to help you. We can get a mediator to help you understand and just help you understand whatever you need in the best way that you need. And it's really important that we're able to show all the different aspects of our language. And we have tons of worlds, tons of resources for you. We even have museums that teach about deaf history and deaf culture. You could go through that museum and just read about all the history of sign language and just kind of dive in. There's all these educational things about even different countries, deaf oralism, so teaching deaf children how to speak, cochlear implants and hearing aids. There's all these things about how in some places they banned sign language, they made it illegal to sign, and they would force children to use their voice. And this is all extremely important parts of deaf history, and it's all there. You can read it in our museum. So it's really crazy to see just how much we've changed. And of course now there was a vote and deaf people are considered equal now, and we're happy. And this was the right decision to allow us to use sign language. But I think that's a great resource for people to be able to come in and just read and be able to see how deaf people have now gotten free from a lot of shackles. And now it's a decision. If a deaf person wants to have a hearing aid, they can decide, because it is a very overwhelming decision. You know, you're going on an airplane, you're hearing people yell at you. It's a lot to take in. But nowadays it's the deaf person's decision, so they can choose to take the hearing aid off, while before it was forced upon deaf children. And now, you know, we've just changed so much, and it's really important to be able to see these aspects of deaf culture, because it's not just a language, it's an entire culture. You know, deaf culture includes the struggles of cochlear implants and hearing aids and discrimination and people who saw us as lesser, and the battle that we had to fight to get to freedom. And I think it's extremely important for people to learn that as well.
A follow-up question I wanted to ask Ray is, how has VR technology over time helped with the ASL/deaf community? Because I remember when I started playing VRChat, we didn't have the index, so we didn't have full finger tracking, and back then it was just sort of like 3 or 4 gestures, and I'm sure that's very limiting on the deaf community to be able to communicate with other people who are deaf or hard of hearing. So how has like technology in terms of like the indexes, which I'm assuming you have now, has improved signing for you in VRChat?
Yeah, that's really true, especially what you're talking about index. That's a really good point. When I first started signing in VR, I had old Vive controllers that were extremely limited. They had only a few gestures, like you said. Very, very limited. And we were completely unable to do full sign language. We were very limited on how much we could say and do. And it was a struggle because it was confusing. You know, I'd be trying to communicate with people, and my only experience is sign language in real life, and now it's completely changed and altered using a Vive controller. And it was, you know, I just wasn't ready for that at the time. But I took time, and I was very patient, and was able to learn how to move properly, how to sign with it. You know, I got used to those controllers as time progresses. That's a really big part of it, is just getting used to the technology. And maybe 4 or 5 months after I had gotten completely used to those controllers, after that happened, this was when we saw an announcement about the index controllers, like you said, and this allowed almost full perfect finger tracking. And we as a deaf community were like so interested in this, and all of us were saving our money to buy it as soon as it came out. You know, I had to focus super hard in my work in real life just to save the money for it. And once it got out, I ordered it as soon as I could. And it was pretty fast shipping as well, which was nice. Maybe like just a few days. It was like very surprising, honestly. But once I got that index, even with index controllers, which is new technology, after connecting it to my computer, I just had some issues with it. It just wasn't working properly. And then it took me a while to fix it. But, you know, once I got it working and everything, it takes a lot of practice. It's really different than the controller I had before. I had to basically learn everything from the start again. You know, there is one problem still, and it doesn't support full fingers 100%. So you can't cross your fingers. You can't do a little cross your fingers. You can't do every single movement. Like you can't do the T finger, which is like putting your thumb in between your knuckles. We can't do that still. So there's still limitations with this for sure. You know, we can't do the M hand, the N hand. A lot of the letters we're still unable to do with the thumb movement. It's very limited with the thumb. You know, it's not perfect 100%. You can't move it. It's still a struggle. And sometimes, you know, even today, I struggle to understand when people are signing really quickly or whatever. But in real life, you know, I'm completely adverse. It's just a little bit different in VR, which is a little sad. I won't lie, it's a little sad. But, you know, I know that hopefully plans are being made for different types of technology and controllers to come out. And I know one day we'll eventually be able to cross our fingers. You know, every little detail like that, it's important for sign language, but we make do. So even though we can't do these fingers actually, we just have our own iterations of them that we change to do in VR instead. So, for example, we can't quite do a W hand like that. If you can't do it, then we show it a different way. So little things like that, we're able to adapt as a deaf community. And even though the technology isn't perfect, we're still able to find ways to communicate and be satisfied, and just hope for the future that it's going to get even better, and make that decision as a deaf community, just keep on going and hope that more and more technology will be approved for testing and we'll be able one day to do sign language perfectly. I know it will happen.
A follow-up question to that would be, obviously in the real world and in VRChat, ASL is different. Obviously, you said that how you can't do certain letters and certain gestures because it doesn't work on the index. But is it, like, how accurate would you say, if someone was to learn ASL in VRChat, would they be able to communicate with someone who is deaf in the real world, or is it still completely different, or is it pretty, 90%, or how accurate would it be?
Oh, yeah. If you learned in VR, you could probably still understand in real life. I want to say a lot of our people in our community get out of VR and communicate with deaf people in real life as well. I remember when I was talking about how I graduated from my deaf school, and I was away from my deaf friends. It's been a long time since I've seen them. But a few of them we've connected and used video chat. And it's very similar to that concept of almost using like a video chat in VR, and combining a virtual world and a real world, with all of our community, our deaf and hard of hearing friends, coming together and socializing, using our hands to communicate. So I definitely think it's a little confusing at times, and it takes some time to get used to, because it's not exact, but it's always based on real sign language, just like how a video chat maybe isn't perfect and you're maybe not going to understand all the time, but it's still the language, because stuff happens. It's technology. You're going to crash, you're going to lag, you're going to freeze, you got to call back later, whatever it is. It's a very similar concept when you're comparing it to VR. There's always going to be these issues and there's always going to be misunderstandings, but you could always just keep going and sign slowly or sign again, sign slowly with people who are new, rookies who come in for the first time. We're always going to be respecting them and helping them and signing slowly with them, and finger spelling with them, whatever it takes. But yeah, we try really hard to teach our students as best as we can and have them practice as best as they can, go to our classes and learn as much as they can, explain everything, so that way if they do have an experience in real life eventually, once they're ready, then once they get to that, it's almost like a graduation sort of thing, is you could talk to somebody who's mute or hearing or whatever, and there's just this moment where it kind of clicks and they could understand, oh, I get it, I understand what's happening. And that's kind of what I live for. Like, I see these students growing and learning, and I'm very impressed with all my students, even students from other countries who maybe aren't fluent in the home country language. Even we have people from Dutch and France, Korea. We have all these languages available, and it's really great to be able to see people interested in the language, learning it, and then going out and communicating with people both in and out of VR, with the knowledge that they gain, and being able to help all my students around me. And it's really great, honestly.
I'm just checking, we got 20 minutes before an ad break. A follow-up question that I have is how can people get involved with the ASL community? Is there like a specific Discord? Are there specifically classes? Like, when is the time frame? You know, is it a weekly thing? You know, when someone goes there for the first time and doesn't know any ASL, what is like you would say the average learning time for someone to possibly be fluent or know enough ASL to communicate with someone who is deaf or hard of hearing?
Oh, okay, I see. So how do you join the community? Well, we do have a community Discord, and we also have classes that are hosted. So don't worry, it's a little bit overwhelming, a lot of information here, but so in our community, we have a Discord server that you can join, and it's really important that you're following the rules once you join. So you come into our community and you're going to read our rules. And then we also have some videos there that explain to you how our classes work and how you can come join, and everything that you need to know. All the information is there for you. Our community is called Helping Hands. So if you wanted to join, you can come in through that. I know a lot of new people who don't know any sign language at all. They could feel a little overwhelmed. But they're still curious and they want to join, and that's totally okay. And we want to be able to communicate with you through writing or whatever it is, and that you could just come in and ask however many questions you want. We have a FAQ that you can read and get a lot of information from that. So we try our best to make our community very easy to understand, very easily accessible. And it's just great being able to see our community grow and how fast it's been growing. We've had a lot of people join us. It's just really crazy. I want to say around the start of 2019, that's when we really opened it, at the beginning of 2019. And it's just been growing more and more and more since then. And now today, almost 2022, it's really crazy just how much support we've gotten for our community. We're over 3,000 members right now. And it's just crazy to see how many people have been interested in joining our community that started just from a small friend group. So yeah, we want to have our community welcome for anybody, just like Jenny here. When she joined Helping Hands, she was still rookie, still new, and now she's very comfortable and working with our deaf community on a daily basis. And if you ever need help, you can talk to Jenny or you can talk to me. We're always here to help you. We're always open to communicate with you. And if you ever just want to talk with us, watch a movie, do something fun, whatever you want, we're always down. And we just want to say our community is open. And we have so many worlds that you guys can come and see. And all of our worlds are accessible also for people to learn. We have a world made by Bob called ASL Experimental World. And this is just great for learning. And then we also have another world by one of our deaf members named GT4Tube called Helping Hands School. And this is great for where we use our lessons usually. And it's really great just for learning from a board. So we just have so many resources available for you, and they're all open. They're all something that you can come in at any time. And we work really hard to keep it up to date. If we ever see a bug, we try our best to fix it. We're always very attentive with our community. We also have another world called Helping Hands Headquarters, or HHHQ. And this is another world where we have a lot of classes. So if you join our Discord, you can go ahead and see how to join there and, just get excited. Just come and get excited and come join us and join our classes, connect, come talk to us, come join. Anyone, any person can come in. PC or Quest, our worlds are Quest compatible as well. So if you have a Quest, you don't have to worry. All of our teachers are super supportive, and we're just going to be able to get you whatever you need. We have schedules. So if you're not sure what time Whether you're West Coast or East Coast, we all have that for you. It's tailored to your country's time, so you don't have to worry about getting confused. Like, we work very hard to have everything explained and clear so that everyone can have the same universal experience, even though we're at different time zones. So somebody who's experiencing a class at nighttime and is busy can instead experience a class in the morning. And, even though we're not an official school or anything, we know that you get busy. We know that stuff comes up, and we're just here to support you. You don't have to come to every single class. It's okay if you miss some, but just keep an eye on that schedule, and you can come whenever is convenient for you, and we'll just be ready. We'll be ready for you to take that class, the ASL class, BSL class, Korean Sign Language, Dutch Sign Language, French Sign Language. We have it all. And our job is just to make sure that you're enjoying it and that you feel comfortable, and that you can have that experience with sign language. And a lot of people forget sign language if they don't use it every day, and that's fine. It's all about taking your time, and you can keep on trying and keep on going, and we're just going to be here to support you as you're taking your time and continuing. And I know that if you keep trying, if you keep going, and you don't give up, never quit, you can persevere. And I love seeing my students come in with that dream of persevering and being successful, entering our community, and becoming successful. And we even have some members of our community taking college classes and becoming official interpreters now. And it's really crazy to see.
My next question that I have for Ray is, do you have any favorite worlds in VRChat that you personally like to explore in VRChat?
I will never forget this one world. It is absolutely my favorite. I will never forget it. And honestly, it's the presentation room. I know it's old. I know it's back like 2018, 2019 era. But I just have so many memories in that world. And honestly, I just love it so much because that was where we used to be all the time. We would communicate with each other in that world and just spend hours and hours and hours writing with each other. And it's something that's always going to stick with me and I'm never going to forget. And, it's just, I know it's not really used anymore, but it's still my favorite. And it just has a very special place in my heart. And I know it's old, but it's a little sad it's not popping anymore. I don't know if it's closed. I'm not sure. It's a little sad, but, things change. The culture of VR changes, but I'm always going to have a special place in my heart for that presentation room. And it's still my favorite to this day.
I actually went to the presentation room recently for my 4-year anniversary of VRChat. December 10th, 2017 is when I started playing VRChat, so 4 years later, December 10th, 2021 is when I went back. And I actually went back to that world to reminisce about the memories I had when I first started playing VRChat. And I'm not sure if this is actually still the case, but it seemed that when I would use the markers, it worked for me, but when other people would use the markers, it just didn't work anymore. It seemed to just break, essentially. Like they didn't seem to be functioning anymore, which makes me sad.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I remember hearing that. Yeah, I agree with you. It is a little sad, but worlds become outdated for sure. But it just means that there's even more ones that you could explore. And I know that the pens are pretty much broken now, which is a shame. But if you write super slow, I think it still works. Like you gotta write like snail slow, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because if not, then the letters get pretty mixed up. And it's just very difficult to understand what it is. So it just gets broken. It's a bug for sure. But if you write super duper slow, I think it works. Like turtle slow, you know what I mean? It is hard, but for sure it's possible. And then I still have friends of mine who use pens similar to that. And there's definitely times where I'm like, wait, what? And I have to like ask them to say it again. Like, I can't understand you. It's completely broken, you know? It just happens. And especially those old pen systems, they are not good. And it's definitely an issue that maybe we could talk to the developers about updating, because it's definitely broken. But, you know, we also have keyboards now, so maybe we should just replace all the pens with keyboards, you know? So that way we could buy new pens, use those, or use keyboards or whatever. Just replace what's broken. But that old world, I kind of hope will stay old and just where it is, even though it's broken. But, you know, some things need to be removed and replaced and updated, and especially those pens, if they don't work. It could be really frustrating if you're not able to understand what somebody's trying to tell you. And even keyboards sometimes have issues. But, you know, updates happen and things change, so you never really know what will happen next. I feel like VRChat's always sort of changing something. They're not really good at sticking to one thing at a time. They just kind of shove a problem aside and then focus on a different thing. So you never really know.
Yeah, when I first started playing VRChat, I remember meeting Ray and some other people that were mutes who relied on pens to communicate with other players, and I was deeply saddened when, I think it was in 2019, when the Oculus Quest sort of came out and it basically broke the IK, so then pens were basically unusable in VRChat on avatars or sometimes even in worlds, and it was a huge struggle. However, obviously as time has went on, you know, the pens have gotten better on avatars and in worlds, and as well as avatars have gotten better. So for example, there are some avatars that do have keyboards on them to be able to essentially type and have words appear above their head. But also there's an avatar that a friend of mine has where it has like speech to text. So basically they would be talking and then it actually translates what they're saying in real time as a speech bubble next to their head. And I thought that was really cool. So there's a lot of incredible things that have developed over time in VRChat, and it makes me happy when there's so many different people willing to develop these types of tools to communicate in many different ways besides just speaking.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's very cool to see.
My next question I have for Ray is, what is something you'd like to see VRChat update to improve the ASL community? Is there something that you really wish that was in VRChat to improve the deaf/ASL community that you've been wanting for a long time?
That's a pretty hard question. I'm not really sure I'm good at explaining it, but I could try. So it's like, how do we help improve our ASL community? It's a pretty difficult thing to ask. Because our Helping Hands community, we've been discussing this forever, you know. There's a lot of different perspectives on it, on how we could improve. And whether that be improving the guidelines of VR, improving the, you know, seeing what we're satisfied and seeing what we're not satisfied about, and then tackling these issues one at a time by discussing with the teams, you know, especially like the pens, like you were saying, or whatever. Just like little updates that we can do to help improve our systems. But, you know, it's difficult just to pick one thing that like needs to be replaced or needs to be updated. It's kind of hard to see in the grand scheme of things. I feel like right now where I'm at, I'm pretty comfortable with the VRChat technology. You know, I can read well and I can understand and sign well, and even people who are mute, I feel like at this point, you know, it's a little nerve-wracking, and every so often miscommunications happen and problems happen. But I want to say that right now in VRChat, like being mute isn't like impossible. You know what I mean? Like people can decide all these different ways to communicate. They could use their voice. They could decide to stay muted in game. They could, speak in real life but not speak in game. And it's like I feel like we have a pretty accessible environment right now in VRChat that allows people to choose how they communicate. And all we can do is just help the people who decide that they want to use our language. And the people who want to use writing, the people who want to type instead, or use that text to speech like you were saying. All that we can hope is that just proves even more and gets better, as we are just doing what we can to support that and do the best work that we can. So, we can never really tell what the future is going to hold. And if hard of hearing people are having issues like hearing when people are talking or whatever, there's not really much we could do for that, just because it's a hearing thing, unless you're using sign language. Improving your hearing is something that's gonna take a long time, and can't think of a way that VR can help with that personally. But if they decide that they want to take up sign language, I think that'd be great. But some people don't want to do sign language, so it's really up to the person. But yeah, I respect everybody. I respect their decisions if they want to talk instead of sign. It happens. I get it. And I'm just gonna focus on my own thing and focus on helping out my community and all these other people who are mute and struggling to communicate. I feel like they could use body language to communicate. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard to communicate with body language, especially with hearing people who maybe have never understood. It's sort of like charades, so it could be a little bit difficult or frustrating. But us as deaf people in VR, we're pretty used to it, just finding new ways to communicate. Especially because this is just such a new concept. We're pretty much like the pioneers. Like we're the first deaf people here, and we're still figuring out the technology with everybody else, and index and everything. We're just figuring out what helps, and it's just important to go with the flow. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Going with the flow is important. Before we continue, we're going to take a 90-second ad break. So I'm going to play an ad. So for anyone out there in the chat, if you're currently not subscribed, you're going to see an ad for the next 90 seconds. This is on purpose for those who don't understand. On Twitch, if I do not purposely run ads, you will essentially see ads throughout the interview, and it's going to be disruptive towards the interview. So I don't want you guys to see an ad and then miss a conversation with Ray or myself. So just as sort of like a 1 minute warning for anyone out there who's watching, or if Ray or anyone here wants to quickly take like a bathroom break or a drink break, then do so now. All right, played the ad. So it should start now. In the meantime, I'm gonna, give a shout out to the people that have been following. Angel Demon 7645, thanks for the follow. Jessmus84, thanks for the follow. HPPE Def, thanks for the follow and also the raid earlier. Big Brank, thanks so much for the follow. Dan Moth, thanks so much for the follow. I think that's everyone. XRenX, thanks so much for the follow. And Selfish King, thank you so much for the tier 1 for 2 months. I appreciate that. And Tendry Genderless, thank you so much for the follow as well. I appreciate you. Thank you again. Also, if you don't know, I also have a merch store, so exclamation point merch in my chat. And we have 3 Neko Cowgirl outfits left. So if you're interested in a mouse pad, yes, there are Booba mouse pads, Opie, mouse pads. If you're interested in that, there's 3 left. It could be a wonderful gift if you want to give it to somebody or to yourself. I don't know, rest your hand on my booba in a way. Anyway, if you have any other questions, if anyone in the chat has any questions, we'll be taking those soon. So click the link, the Google document link, and basically you can ask a question to Ray or to myself. I'll be taking those questions soon. All We'll give it a few more seconds, and I think the ad break's gonna be over. All right, how is Ray and Jenny feeling? Are you guys good to go to continue?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, awesome.
I'm just a little nervous, but I'm good.
Are you ready, dead guy? All right, awesome. So, my next question is, do you have any games you enjoy playing in your free time outside of VRChat?
I mean, sometimes I do have a few that I enjoy. You know, I like kind of shooting games. So, you know, anything where you kind of like hit and shoot. RPG games as well are fun. So anything like that, I kind of like. And yeah, you know, I feel like just as I game more and more, I get more used to it. And I'm just a little bit more comfortable with my controllers, or you know, playing with my other deaf friends. We could connect through that, and join a lobby together, and just hang out. So it's fun. It's cool. I just enjoy really whatever. In real life, my deaf friends, we enjoy playing games together occasionally. And an old friend of mine who's deaf, they for the first time got VR recently, so I was able to kind of show them the ropes of VR, because it's definitely an awkward experience when you're in VR for the first time. So I really enjoyed being able to help them out and just try out VR for the first time, you know, get used to your hands in a way. So yeah, that was an old friend of mine. That was cool to be able to meet them in VR, and he met Jenny too, which was cool. So, you know, it is awkward getting in VR for the first time, but I really enjoyed being able to help him with that. Yeah, every so often it's good to take a break from VR and try out some other stuff. So I definitely try my best to try some other stuff every so often. But yeah, it was definitely funny to see how my friend reacted to seeing VR for the first time and seeing how different it was from real life, because he made the purchase himself and decided to come in VR and hang out with everyone, make new friends and everything like that. So it was cool to see. Yeah.
A question I should have asked earlier: how did it feel to actually put on the headset for the first time, or even experience full body for the first time? Was that a surreal experience for you? Was that something that was exciting to be able to finally move your legs and be able to be in a virtual world where you can be any avatar or be in any world, essentially?
Yeah, I definitely remember that feeling. I have to think about it a little bit, but I want to say the first time I experienced playing VR back in 2018, obviously that was before I had my headset, but then after some time, when I was in a public world, and I had never really understood what was happening, just because people were being loud, and obviously as a deaf person I didn't understand what was going on. And a lot of people came up to me and were like approaching me and speaking to me, and it just made me very uncomfortable, pretty nervous. And I was attempting to communicate with them through writing, but they just kind of like attacked me in a way. Like they weren't being nice, and they were just kind of like getting all up in my face and being very confrontational. So, you know, I was just trying to have a good time, and trying to make friends and stuff, but there's definitely people who kind of want to ruin your drive. And like it was definitely awkward after that experience. Like I was able to get VR, you know, and it was definitely awkward, like with the controllers. I think I struggled the most with just understanding how to move my hands the right way. I definitely needed help with that. Just being able to get everything working properly and connected, and everything working as it should. And so nothing was like broken or whatever. And you know, now I feel like I'm pretty comfortable and used to everything. But it definitely is an awkward experience when you first try it for the first time. And when I first got full body, which I have, you can see, that was super awkward. I had a lot of trouble setting that up as well. It was pretty difficult to set up. But when I first, you know, finally got in there, it was pretty difficult to understand my play space because I have a pretty small play space. So I was attempting to I move in a bigger house maybe, so that way I could run around a little bit more. But for right now, I'm every so often my hip will kind of lose tracking and stuff like that. So it is literally, it is a little funny to experience that. But yeah, you know, that's all. It's just all different.
My next question is, how do you feel about your community over the past year with streaming? How has your community grown?
That's a good question. So, I do have experience with in VRChat and streaming. You know, when I first opened my stream in 2019, there was some people who showed up. They joined me and they were kind of like following me, if that makes sense. Oh, excuse me, I got even more followers from that. And I got a lot of deaf people as well who were following me, and I was able to introduce them to the world. I was able to show them around and just kind of show them the ropes and be able to show them everything about our community and all the fun and funny things that we have to offer. And right after I was kind of doing these world tours, I just got so many new followers. It just exploded. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a little scary just seeing my follower count just join all of a sudden, and I'd get raids a lot. Raids were just super exciting because I would just see my view count jump and stuff like that. So I got a lot of attention on Twitter as well, and every so often I'd get attention from some famous people. I had some interactions with Lolathon before, so that was definitely very exciting, just because this is like a pretty big person, and I got a raid from Lolathon one time, and that was definitely a crazy experience because you know, I don't think that Lolathon gets exposed to deaf people very often. So it would just felt great to be able to have my stream be a gateway to expose people to deaf community. So I was very grateful for that.
My next question is, any advice for anyone that wants to grow a community like yours? Is anyone that maybe is watching right now that maybe is also a deaf streamer or hard of hearing that wants to get into streaming? Is there any advice you would give to them?
It's a little difficult to explain. You know, when you're thinking about how to help growing a community, whether that's the deaf community or any sort of thing, with Helping Hands specifically, we were able to get a lot of press. We were able to get YouTubers who were able to talk about us, and then we were able to get a lot of attention with our worlds that we had made. And just a lot of attention through that. Because at first we were pretty private and not a big community, but once we started making bigger worlds and trying our best to get involved into larger things than ourselves, I think that's when we saw the most growth, excuse me. And that's what really made us successful, is when we focused on our own community and we focused on doing the best that we could do, and innovating and making something new, something that maybe nobody's seen before. And we have worlds that are made for learning. We have streaming. We have another member who's hard of hearing who does streaming, and he would just show off the worlds, so people will be able to see the worlds and be interested and want to join. And anyone who is interested would be able to come. And so that really helped when we had videos come out on YouTube. It just exploded, because we were interviewed or people would talk about the worlds that we have. And we definitely just saw a huge growth right after that. Our Discord just exploded, and our worlds became a lot more popular. And it's still cool to this day to see us grow more and more. And of course, it's a choice. I feel like that's also part of it, is like making a very accessible environment where people feel comfortable enough to come and want to talk and just be amazed and just be like, holy moly, this is some amazing culture, and want to learn sign language. Creating an environment that feels exciting, that feels new, that feels cool. You want to come in. You don't have to be nervous. It's okay. Like, we're gonna make it a place where you can come in and you can join and you can have fun. And even if you've never had an experience with sign language before, you can still join. And that environment that we created just allowed our community to grow extremely fast. And I can still remember from so long ago, back before our community was so big, Jenny as well, we all worked together and innovated all these ideas that are still a very large part of our community today, just working together to figure out how we could be the absolute best we can be. And we brainstorm, figure out ideas, what would work, figure out ones that don't work. And then new people who were curious and wanted to come join, we created an environment where they have a good time joining. We try our best to optimize our worlds too. We try and be patient. We try and respect everybody. And anyone who comes and joins, we want them to feel comfortable, whether that be in the Discord or in our actual VRChat worlds. We just try our best to make everyone feel like they're welcome here, and that they could talk to anybody, even if they're deaf. We're going to have resources available for them, so that they can meet and talk to other people
there's
as well.
a lot of you. That's okay.
So yeah, it's a little bit
I
hard
can
to explain
handle
because
all
it's a
of you
pretty
at
big
once.
concept, but I'm pretty grateful for Jenny to be here and help interpret for me, and I hope that my explanation makes sense, and that you guys can understand what we're trying to do here with our community, and just make it the absolute best place that we can be, that anyone can join, and just be interested. And maybe one day, even you guys in the chat could come and join us and follow us. It's really important you follow the rules and don't mess around. But if you focus and you follow the rules, I definitely see great potential in being able to learn. And of course, no bullying, no being lewd or whatever, stuff like that. It's just very basic rules that's really important to follow. And as long as you're being respectful, then you're definitely welcome here. And it's just really important that we're respecting our hearts and cherishing our feelings, and listening to others, being respectful, and being open-minded to everyone around us. And that's the main value that we have in our community. And I know that everything is just so much more heightened with coronavirus. It just makes everything a little bit more complicated for everyone else. Just being stuck inside all day and not being able to leave your home, just being completely isolated. So I completely understand like the high anxiety or whatever it might be, but this is actually a really good time for you to take sign language, just because you're separated from everything else. Like, it's a good time to start learning something new instead. Like, you can learn inside with our community, and it also gives you an opportunity to socialize. So being able to socialize with our community, and both me and Jenny, we are very open and very out there, being able to hang out with anyone. So I think it's a really great opportunity for people to utilize this quarantine as a way to connect more with people in VR. And we try very hard to be the very best we can be. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you guys can come and join our community and have fun. We'd really love you guys to come here. And if you don't want to join, that's fine. I totally get it. It's all up to you, and I respect you. But if you decide that you want to come join us, it would be awesome. And really, right now is the perfect time for you guys to come in and join us and just have fun. I love you guys.
We love you too, Ray. I also like to say thank you to Fazan, as I pronounced that, for the raid. I appreciate that. And Derek Daff, thanks for the follow. And Zadef the Cheetah, thanks so much for the follow as well. I appreciate it. For anyone who's just joining in, we're interviewing Ray. Jenny's translating for us. We're about just over an hour in. So we're going to soon be taking questions from the chat. So again, if you have any questions, please use the command !_ questions in my chat. And then fill in your username and fill in your question, and then direct the question towards Ray or myself. Anyway, my next question is, if you can make a universal rule that every player had to follow in VRChat, what would it be?
Oh, okay, got it. Well, I think it's gonna have to relate to an experience that I had before when I was reading the rules myself. I didn't quite understand what it meant, but I was like, oh, okay. And it's about subtitling. And so it'd be really cool to understand that I wish that there'd be a rule that every different person could just respect if somebody had an issue with communication and, wasn't following the rules, that they wouldn't have to worry. Wait, hold on. Right. Why are you saying that? What do you mean by that? Bless you? Oh, okay. Okay, my bad. I was misunderstanding what he was saying.
Oh. Okay.
He says, hold on, take a step back. So what I meant to say is if somebody's not following the rules and if somebody's being really negative, then I wish that they would just have to leave. So, if somebody is just being a total negative person, just being super toxic, super bullying, a crasher or whatever, a hacker, then, it'd be nice if it was just an automatic, like, you get out. All done. Bye. That'd be really nice if you didn't have to worry about it. So that's a rule that I wish people would listen to. I mean, technically it's already a rule. We already have rules about hacking and crashing and being an asshole, but nobody's able to really listen to it fully. So, I wish that it was just a little bit more enforced, I guess. So, I wish the game enforced that a little bit better.
One of my last personal questions that I have, and then we'll start taking questions from the chat / Google document. My last question I have here is, do you have any questions for me, Ray? You don't have to, but in case you've been wondering or you have an opportunity to ask me something you wanted to know.
No, I don't really have any. I'm fine. Thank you though, but I don't really have any questions for you. I'm chilling.
Okay. So we'll start taking questions from the Google document. The first question we have here is from Bill Lancer. The question was, what was a shocking thing you learned in VRChat?
Something that surprised me in VRChat was probably the first time that I was socializing with people and some people were feeling pretty awkward, and so I was able to understand that some people weren't following the terms of service, and it was just making people uncomfortable. There was a lot of hearing people in there, and there was a few mute and hard of hearing people as well. But there wasn't any deaf people in the room at the time. And so it was this experience where I was the only deaf person there, and I was just, I was a rookie. And I was just kind of baffled by seeing these people in this situation, communicating with each other, and having a good time, but needing help and not being, perfectly comfortable in the world at the time. And so, I understand that a lot of people come from a lot of different countries, a lot of different cultures, and it can be difficult in situations where you're not understanding each other. So it was kind of cool to see.
Okay, my next question that I have for Ray, again, another chat question, is from Paint Ilby. I apologize if I mispronounced your name, but Paint asked the question, what is your inner monologue like? Do you think in hand signs, in text, or another way?
Oh, sorry about that. That's a kind of hard question to answer, just because I don't really know anything else. So I can't explain it exactly, just because it's all I've ever known. But I guess in my brain, it's sort of like speaking with hands, but inside of my brain. So it's a little hard to describe, but it's sort of like, it's kind of like it's dark, and then inside of my brain, I'm able to see hands that are communicating. And it's like sort of communicating through concepts and words. And it's a little bit hard for me to explain because it's in my brain, you know what I mean? But it's been like this since I've been a kid. I don't know anything different. So I'm very comfortable and confident with how I process. I'm old now, so I've lived my whole life with being deaf and communicating this way. But I'm not struggling with it or anything. But I can try my best to explain, but it's a little bit complicated, Can I expand on that a little bit? Because it's like deaf people usually they process a little bit differently. So there's some deaf people who weren't born deaf, and they maybe were born hearing and then have cochlears or whatever. So there are some deaf people who have experienced sound and then they think with voices just like a hearing person. But then there's also some deaf people who think in writing, so they see words being written. And then there's some deaf people who think in text like that person said, or just like concepts. So for me, I can think in sign language as well. So there's definitely times where my brain kind of shifts, and like you said, it's dark and you can see hands. So it's really different. Just for each individual deaf person, it's completely different. I just wanted to add on to what you were saying, but yeah.
This next question, again from the chat, comes from Cynthia. She asked the questions for Ray. Are there any technical development in the field of medical treatment of deaf people?
I'm not so sure about that one. That question's a little, well, how do I put this? Me being born deaf, I'm still deaf to this day. I was deaf due to infection. And, my mother was very ill when I was born, and that kind of gave me the infection in my ears. But there's really nothing that can be done. when you're deaf like me. So you're never gonna hear, and that's final. It's just an impossibility. That's what God decided, and that's not gonna change. And so a lot of babies are born like that, and each individual person is different and born in their own individual way. And if you're born deaf, or you're born mute, or you're born in whatever sort of way, you can get medicine if you want. But that's a personal decision. And, being deaf doesn't actually affect your health. And it's just a different way to experience life. So, my deafness is a part of me and allowed me to experience life in a different way. And I'm happy that I was born deaf. Some people have issues with their heart, issues with their lungs, or they are born with a virus, or they're disabled and have to use a wheelchair. They cannot walk. These are all just parts of being human and being born. People are born without limbs, amputees, stuff like that. It's not something that's going to ever be able to change with medicine. And there are some deaf people even who are born with one limb and must sign with one hand. And it's not easy. But, these people have hard lives, but that doesn't mean that they're lesser or that they need to be changed or anything. And me growing up as a deaf child, I struggled with my hands because I just didn't have exact motor development. That's what it's like being a kid, you got to learn how to move your fingers, move each individual finger and stuff. And I knew a child actually who didn't have all of his fingers. Some of his fingers were severed. So he had a hard time signing. I knew this child when I was young. And we would have to communicate with one another slowly back and forth. And, it was harder for him to communicate, but that was just something he was born with. That was something that he had. And our staff at the school just worked with it and changed with it and was able to help him communicate in the way that he needed, almost like an interpreter intermediate between us. And, that experience was really eye-opening for me, and I'm very thankful for that because it allowed me to understand that sign language is so different, even individually between person to person. So yeah, that guy was really inspiring to me, even though it did hurt my heart to see. But I've never seen anything like that before at the time. But just everyone's different in their real life, and it's just incredible to see how different people live their lives just based off how they're born.
Okay, next question from Dram. The question is, what is your most fond memory in VRChat? Can be sweetest, funniest, most emotional, magical, or whatever.
Oh, I want to say my favorite memory in VR is probably the first time I played this Beat Saber game, and it was just so fun to be able to experience music that way. And it was a very fun experience just being able to feel the vibrations from my headphones and being able to move my body with the music. And it was just such a really beautiful experience to be able to have that. And, even in VRChat here, they actually have a Beat Saber world. It's actually pretty cool. But in VRChat also, just being able to communicate with people and have fun and love on people just as a whole, it's just a really great experience to be able to have. And, I'm happy that I've made all these relationships with so many people here that I hope will last for a very long time. And, I've had a lot of experiences with different games in VR. A few shooter games were really fun too. Trying to reload it was really awkward, but it's still really fun. I had to watch YouTube tutorials to teach me how to do it. So it was just interesting and awkward to try all these new things, especially being deaf. If the tutorial is spoken, then I don't get the tutorial, so I have to go through my own process and learn my own way. So there's just so many fun things about VR that is so exciting to experience, and I really enjoyed using shooter games. That was really fun.
Our next question comes from Tenry Genderless. The question is, what do you think about the way such a diversity of forms of American Sign Language mixed together in VRChat? For example, the way many deaf/HOA people come from a background of C, whereas others come from more of an ASL background and with regional signs too, and those mixed together in the signing culture of VRChat. Does it make teaching harder because new sign students are all being exposed to different forms of the language?
It's a very long question.
It is, yeah.
I'm trying to think how to paraphrase this. Wait, so hold on. I'm a little bit confused on what the question's asking. Is she asking like, are they asking like what? I don't understand the question.
Okay, I'll read it to myself so I can try and understand, because it is it's like a paragraph.
Yeah, because I have to translate it, so
yes.
I'm like I have to.
I would say the first part is basically, what do you think about the way such a diversity of forms of American Sign Language mixed together in VRChat?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah. So, totally. To be honest with you, I have experienced before like multiple deaf people, and we're all talking, and we're from different countries or different areas of a country. I'm trying to remember what it was. I want to say it was like 2019. And I was with some friends of mine who signed different sign languages. And just having this, we were having a conversation between us, and we were just like, wait a minute, I totally don't understand what you're saying. And we just had to like ask each other to slow down, like, hold on. And like, we realized that our dialects were like so different that we did not understand each other. And in this case, this person was signed BSL, and I didn't understand what they were saying. So it was definitely a weird experience, like not understanding somebody else who was signing, just because I grown up my whole life using sign. But of course, this wasn't the same dialect. So there's definitely times where it's like the sign language just isn't matching up, especially if it's from a different country. That's an even bigger example. So, in this case, it was like somebody from Britain and somebody from America. So it is difficult at times with communicating, but you could always just help each other. You could always get through it. You could write it out. You can ask each other how to sign it the other way. You could always figure it out. Another experience I had was with a deaf person from Korea, and I didn't understand what they were saying, so we had to write it out. And then their English wasn't perfect because they were fluent in Korean, not English. So, I had to have like my friend help me out, my friend Mr. Dummy. And then he knows Dutch Sign Language, which is also very different. So, it's just, there's so many different variations between country, between dialect. Even in English, it's just so different. But you can always write it out. Even if you have these experiences where you're having a difficult time understanding somebody, you can always just write it out and come to an agreement, come to an understanding, work through it, and come together and kind of be the mediator between the two, and connect between your languages. And I've definitely learned that by being able to experience all of these things and practice more and more, and just learn so many new types of sign languages, even French Sign Language as well. I've definitely had some interactions with people who are deaf in France, and the language is very similar to ASL, but there's still a lot of differences. So when I'm able to learn French Sign Language from a French deaf person, it's definitely a fun experience to be able to see this language for the first time, because I've never actually experienced it in real life. But just being able to show up and see all these different deaf people from all these different environments and cultures, and just being able to interact with them all together, it's great. And even in America, the East Coast is going to sign differently than the West Coast, or somebody might sign quicker than you that you're used to, or somebody might need to take some time to slow down and write it out. You know, there's so many different ways that a miscommunication could happen. And if you don't follow what somebody's saying, and the language is something that you don't understand, like Arabic, then you're not going to be able to, follow up with this, and you need to find a mediator between the two. And it's just all part of it. It's just what it takes to meet new people from all around the world. It's exciting, it's fun, even though it can be frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's easy. And I've definitely had a lot of experiences like that for sure. Do you mind if I grab a glass of water real quick?
Sure.
My throat is okay, sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, for anyone watching, we're gonna take a quick second break for Jenny. She's gonna take a drink, get some water. For anyone else watching, stay hydrated out there. Drink some water, it's good for you. And thank you to everybody. Since we're taking a small break, if anyone's interested, please hit that follow button. It supports me as a content creator. It supports me as an interviewer. And also, if you haven't already, you should hit up Ray is Deaf. Check out their channel. Give them some love. Give them some support. Hit up them with maybe some Twitch Primes or some subscriptions yourself. Support everybody in this community.
Thanks, honey, for using your Twitch sub on me.
Big Brain, thanks so much for the Prime
Big
Gaming
Brain
sub. I
just
appreciate
subscribed
that.
with
Thank
Twitch
you.
Prime.
Thank you, thank you. Triple, thanks so much for the follow. That Q-Row, thanks so much for the follow. MK, thanks for the follow. Baratic Alarm, thanks for the follow. Amzanxiety, thanks for the follow. Patret, Chris, thanks for the follows. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Is this like high viewer count for this channel average? Depends. If I'm doing an interview, I typically have more viewers. On average, I don't know, probably 40 or 50. Depends on what I'm doing. But when I'm doing interviews, I usually get higher viewer count typically. Depends on the guest too.
Sorry about that. Do you have I don't mean to sound rude, but I just have to make dinner.
Sure.
So every
Tripleb
10 more minutes,
713
15 more
just
minutes.
subscribed.
Yeah,
around
we'll wrap up in like 10-15 minutes.
Oh, dope. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're
Thanks for letting me get some water there.
Yeah, we're just taking chat questions for now, and then after that, it's basically just conclusion, wrap up, and that's it. So I appreciate that. Triples, thanks so much for Tribels713, thanks for the tier 1 sub, and thank you, HPPE Def for the 2 bits. I appreciate it. I'll answer one question that I saw in the chat earlier, just really briefly. So some people are asking, why isn't Jenny on screen? So for those who don't understand, when conducting an interview, someone like Jenny is her sort of job is to translate. And so a lot of the times when you watch interviews or talk show hosts and things like that, their job is to essentially be the voice for that person, or for translating if there's like a language barrier or, in this case, ASL. So that's typically how it works. I talked to some professional translators when I did an interview with a Korean streamer and a Japanese streamer, and I had a translator there, and they told me many times that you focus on the person that you're interviewing. In this case, would be Ray, even though Jenny is talking. That's just how it just works in this sort of media. So for anyone wondering why she's not on screen, that's just the way it is. Anyway, we'll say that at the very end, we will obviously show Jenny and give her some love in the chat. But anyway, we'll continue the questions that you guys have been asking, and then we'll wrap up because Jenny has to go. It's, we can't.
Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Anyway, next question here comes from Seabass. Seabaz, hey Ray, awesome to see you here. I want to thank you so much for all the teachings you're doing for the community. My question, what is your absolute favorite memory you have made with your friends here in VRChat?
so many memories with my friends. It's hard to choose one. But probably playing games with my friends is definitely something I enjoy the most. There's a world called Zombie Tag,
Mm-hmm.
and I just have so many memories playing Zombie Tag with my friends. It's just so fun, and also just like hide and seek, like prop hunt sort of stuff, and murder, all of these things like that that you can just play with your deaf friends for so long. And it's just really fun to be able to have that experience. And you know, sometimes sometimes the world might not work perfectly, but that kind of just adds to the fun. And I just have so many memories with my friends in those game worlds. It's like tons of fun.
Okay, we have I would say a few more questions, and then we'll wrap up. So Mr. Dummy underscore NL, who's also in the chat, asks the question: how do you feel with working with Mr. Dummy for so long, and what we made together for VRChat?
Oh, right, of course. Well, I feel working with Mr. Dummy, you know, we talk a lot between each other, and we work really hard making new worlds and making new parts of our sign language worlds, and especially the museum. We worked very hard on together, and we just spent a very long time perfecting the curriculum, the lists of words that we use, the videos that we have for each and individual sign, making sure if a sign is incorrect that we replace it. And it's a lot of work. But we've always been working so hard together to make sure that the worlds that we put out are the absolute best that they can be. You know, if a word we make videos, so if the world is like, how are you? There might be a slight variation, like, how are you might be signed differently. So we try our best to have different dialects shown, different VR types shown. You know, somebody might be using a different controller, and so that's going to look different. And we try very hard to have both of those represented. And so it's very interesting to be able to work with him and just see all these new people who have no exposure to sign language coming in for the first time, and coming out of this gaining something, and being able to use whatever controller they have available, even Oculus, they can sign with, or Index, of course. So it's really been a good experience being able to adapt and change all these different things for each individual controller. And Mr. Dunny still to this day works very hard, and putting new picture boards up and new updates to the world. And it's very great to see. And it's very easy to work with him. So, you know, it's very great to see this world evolve and change, and be the best world that it can be. He works very, very hard. And I'm very thankful for Mr. Dummy for allowing me to help him and improve this world. And I'm really never going to forget the experiences that we've had working together, just because I know how hard he works and how he's always planning on doing something new. And he's definitely surprised me a few times with some generous gifts, or a new thing that he's added to the world that I was not aware of. So he's definitely had a few times where he took me into the world and he's like, come check this out, come see, you know, showing me new parts. So I just want to thank him for allowing me to help, and then helping me as well through our journey. And it's been a really great experience working with him, making our sign language worlds, and being able to teach students through this. And, you know, thank you for helping all of our students as well. I think that you've brought a lot of help to our students, everyone from hard of hearing, deaf, and mute, and hearing as well. Just everyone is able to learn more because of your hard work. So I really want to thank you for the gift that you've given to all of our students. So one time there was this time that he actually surprised me with a large drawing of my avatar in the world. He didn't tell me about it, and he took me to the world and he showed me this drawing of my avatar, and it was so beautiful. My heart was just broken, like, of joy. Like, I cried, and it was such a beautiful experience. And I hugged him, and I was just so happy. And he gave that to me, and it was just so amazing that he was able to give this gift of a drawing to me and put it up in his world. So I'm never really ever gonna forget that, and I'm so happy that he gave that to me. And I'm very thankful for him, and I love him very, very much. And he just makes me so happy. And I'm proud of myself as well for the help that I brought him, and I'm proud of him for the work that he's done for our entire community. And I hope that he feels loved and respected and continues to be successful and respected as we continue as a community. And yeah, I love you, man.
We all love you, Mr. Dummy, for doing what you do in the ASL community. Vilora? VR? I think that's how you pronounce that. Ask the question. Very simple. This will be the last question, then we'll wrap up. The question is, who is your waifu? Do you have any waifus, Ray? Yeah, do you have any waifus?
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, you're so funny. That's a funny one. You're silly. Okay. I don't really know if I have a waifu. Waifu, like you said, I don't really know if I could call a waifu like that, but I do have a few favorite characters that I really like, but gosh, to choose a waifu, that's a hard thing to choose. I don't really know if I'm ready to think of that. I don't have a picture in my mind of somebody who I would consider my waifu that I'm just totally infatuated. I'm not your waifu? It's not me?
I'm not your
dang,
waifu?
Okay.
What?
Yeah, is that Rebel? Is that Rebel? Oh. Okay, wait. All right, there's a lot of different people that I love, okay? I love you. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. All the people around me, they're beautiful in their own way. They're cute. They're beautiful. All right? They're nice. They got the pretty avatars going on. But it's hard to choose just one. You're making me shy. You're making me shy.
Well, anyway, that was the last question, so we're gonna wrap up here. But I wanted to ask, Ray, is there anything that you would like to, any closing statements or conclusion that you want to shout out? Maybe your own stream or your own social links or any upcoming events, anything that you want to tell people. This is the time to tell them.
Oh, thanks. All right. Well, yeah. So you guys all, if you want, you can check out my Twitch. And I wanted to say thank you for coming and watching this stream. This is a very special person, Rebel, and I just value him so much. I find him very important. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here and to be able to be interviewed. So thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys had a great time. And I hope that you guys can come again and see the rest of his interviews. And hopefully in the future we can have even more people from our deaf community here be interviewed. And it's really important that you have an interpreter available. So if you ever need one, you can connect with Jenny. And then we also have some other we have some other interpreters in our community like Shade Access and Codapop who are also readily available to help you out with whatever you need. If we ever need an interpreter in here, we have a really large community who are able to support you in whatever you need. And I just hope to see some more interviews like that in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.
Well, I enjoyed interviewing you, Ray, and also Can you help me out, Jenny? How do I pronounce her name? 'Cause she just gifted 25 subs. Is it Velouria?
Valoria.
Valoria. Thank you. I'm really bad at reading names, by the way. But thank you so much, Valoria VR, for the 25 gifted subs. I really appreciate that. That's you made my night. But thank you so much. I actually wanted to plan to interview Ray for a long time, but I didn't really have a translator, and I didn't really have a method of having him on for an interview. But after so many years of knowing him, I wanted to finally be able to support him and bring him on for a show. Cartographist, thanks for the 100 bits. But yeah,
thank you, man.
well, anyway, if you want to, so I'm going to end my stream after I finish talking here. And then if Jenny and Ray want to stick around just for 1 minute, just to take a photo. I always like to take photos for memories, I guess you could call it, in a way. So I remember all the people I've interviewed and stuff like that. But I deeply appreciate it. Thank you again, Ray, for the interview, and also big shout out to Jenny for coming by and being our translator for ASL today. I really appreciate it, and translating for Ray. I'm really thankful to you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody. Everyone in the chat, please give some hearts to Ray and Jenny, our guests tonight. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. For anyone who's wondering, any of my interviews are within about 24 hours to 48 hours. They will be on YouTube, and I believe on YouTube they already have like an automated closed caption system. So hopefully, if anyone here is from the deaf community, you can watch my previous interviews, and hopefully the closed captions are accurate. I hope so. But thank you, everybody. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody, for the follows, the subs, the biddies, everything like that. And yeah, this is interview 274. I've been doing interviews for over 2 years now, and I love having people on, especially. I always try to be as inclusive as I can be, with many people from all over VRChat, including now the deaf community. And I would definitely love to interview another person from the Helping Hands community as well in the future. All right, see you guys later. Take care, everybody. Hope you all have a wonderful day and or night. And we're gonna go raid somebody, give somebody some love. So give me a moment here. Actually, Ray or Jenny, does anybody, do you have any suggestions who we should raid? Anyone from the Helping Hands community that is currently streaming, or?
Hapdef if he's streaming, or Fajan if he's streaming.
They just ended their streams earlier than rated.
Mr. Dummy. Oh, then I'm not sure.
Does anyone know and who's watching right now that is streaming that's part of the Helping Hands community that we can toss the raid to? Because I'm open to suggestions. Usually I just raid whoever.
Hold on, let me check who's streaming right now.
No worries. Oh, the question. Sorry, I was asking. I was asking who are we going to be raiding? Basically, I'm going to be ending my interview here, and then we're going to be raiding someone who's part of the deaf and or Helping Hands community. Sorry, the translation with the closed captions can be inaccurate at times.
Yeah, it looks like nobody's online right now.
Okay, I'll just raid someone that I follow, and or I usually just raid VTubers and people from the VRChat community. Anyway, I'll see you guys later, and if